Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the JCQ for tonight's Tai Kwun Conversation. I'm Tim Cullen. I have the great privilege of being the director of Tai Kwun Arts. Tai Kwun Conversations has been going for almost ever since we opened Tai Kwun back in 2018, one of our longest running series, and it's a series obviously that is dealing with heritage conservation projects both here in Hong Kong and around the world. So tonight we have a wonderful opportunity to hear a dialogue between two interesting, very dissimilar and very similar or comparable heritage conservation projects with a cultural intent at their heart. The Tai Kwun Conversation tonight is presented in partnership with the French May. I know it's November, but we are very pleased to have this wonderful partnership with the French May, which has brought some great programs to us, including our very opening week back in 2018. And we'll be announcing some details of next May's program in the next few months. But it gives me a great pleasure to welcome a great supporter of Tai Kwun in Hong Kong, the Consul for Culture, Education and Science from the French Consulate, Mr. Benjamin Kabouar, to say a few words before we introduce the speakers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Timothy. So, dear Timothy, dear Chin Chin, dear Yukat Singh, and cher Martin. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but I have to say I'm a bit happy to see that French May is not only in May, but we know it's already in June, and sometimes in April, sometimes in March a bit, and now in November. So, that was not the original plan, but I'm really happy to see this conversation happening on a very important topic. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a great honor to welcome you and to be here for this exciting talk. Tonight we are brought together by two very extraordinary places, Tai Kwun, of course, here in Hong Kong, that you all know, and also Le 104 in Paris, and I'm saying it in French, but Tim will explain a bit. Both venue, you have the pronunciation here, so you can practice a bit. Both venue, though geographically very distant, of course, they share remarkable commonality. They are living proof of how heritage building can be reimagined as vibrant cultural hubs for the public. So as you know, Tai Kwun and Le 104 both stand as testament to urban revitalization. This iconic space were once destined for other purposes, Tai Kwun as a prison and police station, and Le 104 as a municipal funeral service facility. But through bold and visionary transformation, they have emerged as centers of creativity, innovation, and public engagement. So tonight's conversation with some exceptional speakers from both Le 104 and from Tai Kwun will explore the parallel between these two unique sites. The French Consulate is happy to support once more this meaningful collaboration between Hong Kong and Paris, made possible, of course, by the support of the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charity Trust and hosted by Tai Kwun. Thank you again. We are grateful for their commitment to promoting dialogue and fostering connection across cultures. So I hope this evening inspires all to think about the power of spaces like Tai Kwun, Le 104, and many others, not only as artistic venue, but also as living and breathing embodiments of our cities can honor their past while embracing their future. So thank you so much, and I wish you a very enriching and thought-provoking discussion. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. So it's my great pleasure now to introduce the three people who are going to guide you through this evening. From Paris, live on the line from Paris, Martin Colomer-Diez. Martin has been with the project, with 104, since 2016. And we're looking forward very much to hearing about your main focus of your work, actually, Martin, which is the fascinating area of cultural engineering, which I think is a really intriguing subject. I'm sure we'll dive into that. My fabulous colleague, Chin Chin Teoh, is representing Tai Kwun. Chin Chin is the director of the Jockey Club CPS Limited, so there are two partner companies that are responsible for Tai Kwun. It's my great pleasure to work with you, Chin Chin. We have a great time together, most of the time, I think, all the time. I certainly do. And so wonderful to have you on the panel. And our moderator, we're so pleased to welcome Professor Yu Ka-Sing from the Hong Kong University, from the Faculty of Architecture, who will be the moderator tonight and will guide the conversation. So thank you all. Please join us on stage. And we have you online already. Martin, thank you.
Yeah, so tonight I am the moderator. And in fact, this is my second time moderating a dialogue here in Tai Kwun. And I'm happy to meet Chin Chin Teoh today. I would just call you Chin Chin. So Chin Chin actually studied accounting when she was in the university. And this is why she naturally worked in the finance field. But she has been passionate in art, and this is why she switched her path and studied Master of Arts, Master of Art History and Archaeology. And now, before joining Tai Kwun, she has been working as a co-founder of CHAT, the Muse project. So she has been exercising her knowledge on finance together with her passion in arts. And joining Tai Kwun since 2020, I think this is definitely the playing field for Chin Chin to show her talent, right, Chin Chin?
Thank you. That was a very exaggerated introduction, but thank you for that.
Thank you. I hope I got the keywords right.
Yeah.
And so another guest tonight is Martin, and he will be repeating the term le son quatre a few times, definitely, because it is a French name of 104. Yeah, so whenever he mentioned son quatre, then this is 104. And like what Tim mentioned earlier, he studied humanities and also law, and then specializing in cultural management, and now the cultural engineer of 104. And he has been orchestrating a number of art events, cultural events in Paris and even in Toronto, etc. And he's now basically in charge of the entire cultural engineering department of 104 and trying to promote the very special and unique expertise of 104 to not only France but also abroad internationally. So we will learn a lot from Martin tonight. Thanks, Martin. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the presentation. Very glad to be here with you, and it's a nice setup, and I see you very well. So it's all perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so we will first be having a presentation by Chin Chin first.
I think it's Martin first.
Is it Martin? Okay, Martin, you ready? Okay.
I am ready. Yes.
Okay, great. You can start anytime. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Martin. As has just been said, I work at 104 for 12 years now, and I will be presenting a few words about the history of 104 and our main goals and what we do inside the building. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So 104 is an infinite place of art, culture, and innovation. It's quite a new baseline that we have for 6 years now, and it's important baseline for us. The importance of the 3 words. I will explain it later, but infinite place, why? We were invited by an architect team that won the French pavilion in the Architectural Biennale of Venice 6 years ago, and they created a concept of about infinite place. What does that mean? It's very simple. It means that the building, the places, are defined not by the architecture only, but by the uses. And the walls, the building, the architecture is finished. Its material is finished, but the uses are infinite. So it's the infinite place of art, culture, and innovation. Can we go to the next slide, please? First, where is situated 104? 104 is situated in the northeast quarter of Paris. It's quite close to a huge neighborhood called Seine-Saint-Denis, which is the former location where all the factories were in the region of Paris. And if we go deeper, more precisely in the territory, the next slide, we can the other one, please, again. Yeah. The neighborhood is the 19th neighborhood of Paris, and it's quite very popular quite young, very diverse, a lot of inhabitants live there, and it's quite dynamic. And it's a very nice neighborhood with a lot of things going on, and also we have some other different art places. For instance, La Villette, which is a big cultural park close to 104. Can we go to the next slide? Thanks. A bit of history of 104, because as you know, 104 is like Tai Kwun, an historic site. He has an heritage, and his story started in the late 19th century, when it was open to be the funeral activity run by the church at this time. But we had a law in France in the early 20th century that separated the church and the state, and the activity started to be a city hall activity until the late 90s, where the activity stopped because it was open to competition. So the activity stopped at the end of the 90s, and the building were just empty. And so the city hall started to wonder what they're going to be with this building, and started the idea to make a cultural project, a cultural location in this very particular neighborhood that I just mentioned before. And that's why 104 was created. So it had obviously a big rehabilitation project by a French architect team. And finally, the 104 opened in 2008 with the first project, and that was quite a failure. And 2 years after that, a new director was appointed, José Manuel González, who is artistic and general director, and he's still the main director now. Next slide, please. So yeah, what we can say is 104 went from undertaker, a place for funeral business, to a place of art. I put it there 3 different pictures. The first one on the left, it was during the activity of the undertakers. Of course, before cars, we had many coaches, 2,000 people working there, working on building the coffins, working with horses, building the coaches, building the marble stuff, and so on. And on the top right of the slide, you can see the construction site, and the last picture is what is 104 now, a place of art. Next slide. It's quite difficult to explain 104 without seeing what is going on inside. So I will just show you a 1-minute video that we can play it now, if it's possible. There is no sound, but I can comment. It's actually a quite very quick tour of 104 with 2 famous TV person in France. And you can see what is going on inside the 104, with people dancing, juggling, doing circus, because 104 it's like a place to live. It's free spaces. And these 2 journalists, they made like a TV show where one of them choose a place in Paris, and the other one do an interview of her, actually, inside this place. And so it's just like a TV show of 1 hour, but I do a short film for 1 minute, just so you can see, the spirit, the feeling of what is going on inside 104. So you see a lot of people just being there and doing some stuff. So people juggling with ball, people dancing, and so on. Maybe we can go to the next slide. But first, I can say that 104 is firstly a place for and by artists. It's an art place, and so it's built to accompany artists, pluridisciplinary artists. So it is very important, this part. It's a melting pot of artistic expression. We celebrate intersection of disciplines, supporting diverse creative from dance, theater to visual arts, music, circus performances. Next slide, please. Our artistic program, it's not just a schedule, it's meticulously curated experience. We collaborate with prestigious national festivals and prominent galleries, foundation, and also architects to deliver innovative and engaging programs. We have many different festivals, and we work with many different partners to organize them. Okay, with the next slide, please. And we are very committed to artist development, supporting around 30 associated artists through production, touring, and career development. We view our role as a crucial partnership in making artistic project possible and making artists growing into their career. And yeah, we really accompany very different artists in different fields. Next slide. But CENTQUATRE, as you can see in the video, it's not just an art place, but it's also a place to live, a place to experience. It's not just a venue, it's like a vibrant community hub. It's a space for interaction, a place where the community comes alive. When people came at CENTQUATRE, we don't ask them for a ticket, it's free to use. So you can just cross the CENTQUATRE as it is like a street. Actually, there is two main entrances. You can use the CENTQUATRE as a urban shortcut. It's possible, and many things is going on inside CENTQUATRE. We have also two restaurants, a library, a second-hand clothes shop, a library, and some other pop-up store. Next slide, please. CENTQUATRE is also founded on cultural urbanism principles. So our approach is deeply rooted in this approach. We are working with some principles as chronotopia. It means like our spaces are used for different uses regarding the time. For instance, in the morning it can be something, in the afternoon other thing, and in the night other uses. The coactivity between the different activities is very important. The shared spaces foster collaboration and diverse users interact and create together. It's also a place for experimentation, a place for risk-taking and innovation. It's a place where we value new ideas and new approaches. They are welcome. It's also a place where we have adaptable spaces that evolves with needs, and that also the designs allows flexible uses. And finally, sustainability is also important for us in a way, in an environmental and socially responsible way. For us, the long-term impact on the community and on the environment is important. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so one core mission, one of the core mission we have, quite simple: accompany, inspire, connect, train, supporting artists, fostering collaboration, and driving artistic excellence. Can we go next, please? I wanted to make a focus on the local audiences because it's something that is quite crucial for us, and as you saw on the videos, we have a free artistic practices. It means that we have a lot of people that are just coming in CENTQUATRE and they use the space freely to dance, to juggling, to act. We have many different artists, professional, amateurs, international known artists that they just use the space. I'm not even saying about residencies program that we make, just like on the public spaces, they are free to use for people. And daily, on a daily basis, we have maybe 500, 1,000 people that come at CENTQUATRE just to use the spaces for that. Can we go next, please? And we do also have some program for locals, inhabitants. We have a place called 5 that make some space. We rent space for like €2 a day for a cultural association to use the space. And we do organize on a yearly an event called Forum of the Local and Cultural Dynamics. It means like all the association, all the schools that have cultural artistic project, they come for a week at CENTQUATRE and they perform and they exhibit and they just like organize like a huge festival with those projects. Can we go next, please? And last, for the social impact, we have a little house. It's like a house where we will welcome children with their parents between 0 and 5 years old, the children of the parents. And it's a place that works on the relationship between children and their parents, and it's totally free. And it's open 6 days a week. Can we go next, please? And yeah, what I do, I run the cultural engineering departments. So just to make it simple, it's like a consulting and production agency inside CENTQUATRE. So a lot of people came to ask us how we did this project, and just in order to answer and to make a nice answer and good response, and to take time to create, imagine how we can answer this simple question, but it's not, the answer is not simple. We built like teams and different different team just to accompany some people that has project to create new cultural location or to create a new festival. And all this expertise is really come from our expertise at CENTQUATRE. And so in the team we have urbanist, architect, geograph, and other cultural management people. And so we build like team and different services to accompany this type of project. Can we go to next slide? And yeah, for instance, we accompany the creation of rehabilitation of a building, former weaponry in Spain, to be a new cultural location in Sevilla, and we organize also big events on construction site of the new subway in Paris, or developing new permanent artwork in the new station, for instance. And finally, I wanted to talk about CENTQUATRE Factory, which is the incubator of CENTQUATRE. So we have between 15 and 20 different startups that are on a daily basis at CENTQUATRE. They have their office, and we accompany them in order to make their business grow. And basically, the startup is in the field that can in the cultural and creative fields. For instance, it's the startup that create a new sound design or immersive content or VR helmet, those type of startups. And thank you for your attention. Oh yeah, no, I have also some key figures. Yeah, we opened since 2008, and CENTQUATRE is 39,000 square meters, a team of 1,200 permanent people working there, and yeah, some other key figures, and just one, because I didn't say it, it's the number of artistic team that we welcome for residency at CENTQUATRE. It's 300 teams, different teams work at CENTQUATRE on yearly. Yeah, basically it's my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Martin. Yeah, big applause, please. Yeah, we'll definitely have some questions for you, Martin, but wait till the end, okay? So now we'll have Chin Chin to introduce Tai Kwun to all of us. Of course, you know Tai Kwun very well already.
Thank you. Thanks also, Martin, for that really enlightening presentation. I think the audience here today must know Tai Kwun quite well. I'm going to spend a rather short time to talk about Tai Kwun and maybe some of the things you don't know as well. I think that would excite you. After listening to Martin's presentation, I feel there are so many similarities between the two organizations, but there are also many very different approaches to using this conservation site. So maybe with that, I'd like to just start with a short video to just recap about Tai Kwun's history. If you may play that, please. Thanks. Yeah, so also for maybe Martin's understanding, Tai Kwun is very similar in the sense that this complex of buildings was built also largely in the 19th century. Our oldest building dates back to 1862, but this site was already employed as the Center for Law Administration and Punishment since 1841, when the British colonial administration ruled Hong Kong. So from this photograph, you can see Tai Kwun is nestled really as a sanctuary amongst a forest of skyscrapers in Hong Kong, in the middle of Central. And one of the things that Tai Kwun, I think, we pride ourselves in doing very well, and I think you saw it in the video, is we do whatever we can to bring people together to this vibrant heart of Hong Kong, to be surprised by what culture, art, heritage, journey could be, and stretching the imagination of how this heritage site could be used to empower the arts and heritage. So on the next slide, this is a snapshot of the Tai Kwun buildings. There are actually 18 buildings on this site. It sits on a gross sort of square footage of 14,000 square meters. Since we opened, we have about 20 million visits up to date. We are now entering the sixth year of operation. And this has been an extremely encouraging statistic also to us, because for pretty much 3.5 of the last 5-6 years, we were going through social unrest and also through a very difficult COVID pandemic time. So to see all the visitors swarming back through the 5 gates of Tai Kwun every day, locals mostly, and also mainland international travelers who really just are so wowed the moment they enter into this space, is something, you know, I smile about every day with Tim when we walk through the site. So if you look at this floor plan, there are 2 areas I really wanted to highlight. So the front, which has a big empty space, the parade ground, I think that is Tai Kwun's living room. And then at the back, there's a smaller space, the prison yard. That's Tai Kwun's backyard. Now, previously, as we all know, if you go to the next slide, the parade ground is a very austere space. It was the center where the police forces would march. They also had horses here. They parked cars here. And this building that you see, Block 1, is the police headquarters block, surrounded by all other buildings, which are barracks blocks, the police dormitories, etc., the armory blocks. And after the conservation, we were always so enthralled by all the endless possibilities of what parade ground could mean to Hong Kong people who are craving for open spaces, especially in the middle of this concrete jungle in Central. And so what we've done to parade ground is Tim and I find as many opportunities as possible to turn it into the next slide, which is a really vibrant place where people just come together to watch performances, to enjoy the vibe. And this was last year's Christmas, where, and we're about to actually light the Christmas tree this Sunday, and we bring international circus performers, street performers. They come from Europe, France, Asia, local performers, and it's just a 1 month intensive daily crazy festival that drives the team to madness, but we have a lot of fun doing it. So this is what parade ground looks like on Christmas Day. And the next slide is the prison yard, the quiet backyard that has a really imposing prison wall that of course daunts a lot of the ex-prisoners who were exercising in this yard. But it is also an extremely beautiful backdrop for us to install something as magical as the next slide, which is a prison yard festival. So with the high prison wall as the backstage, we invite performing groups, set up risers to have a beautiful chamber music orchestra and chamber music playing through the night. Of course, we are very wary of the disturbances that would cause to neighbors who live right above the prison wall, so there are no rock concerts in this part. But it is actually an absolutely tranquil, beautiful setting to enjoy an evening of quiet chamber music. And we are also setting that up, so for all of you who want tickets, we still have them. That opens in December. So Tai Kwun, I think, in its core and its DNA, is about bringing that 365-day festival, but it is a festival that we want people to be so comfortably immersed in. There are no entry tickets, just like Songkat. People walk in freely from the 5 entrances. They traverse through Tai Kwun on their way to work. They take their lunch break here, the office workers, and it's just a space you would go on a weekend when you kind of, want to bring an international guest, or you absolutely have no clue what to do in Hong Kong. You just pop by to Tai Kwun and you be surprised. And the next slide, maybe, I think the mission statement between us and Songkat are quite similar. There's the element of bringing people to a vibrant heart, also trying to use arts, culture, heritage to inspire the community, to allow the public to have very easy access and enjoyment, and also unleashing potential for emerging talent. And we do have artists in residence programs. We also have open calls, competitions that I will talk about, of how we engage artists to use their creative imagination to engineer Tai Kwun's access, engineer Tai Kwun's aesthetic appeal, and even directional signage, which I will talk about in a bit. One thing that Tai Kwun also holds very close to its heart is how we would relate to the local festivities, festivals, Hong Kong popular culture, etc. This is something I think keeps the visitors coming to engage with that. The next slide I'm going to show you is actually a very short video. I think for those of you who have been to Tai Kwun, you must have heard of Inner Glow. So Tai Kwun's parade ground, prison yard, has so many architectural facades that are really a 3D projection mapping firm's dream. So this is last year's Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, where we projected dragons up Tai Kwun on all the buildings. And I'll just show a short clip. And maybe if you could play that. Yeah. So this we do every year in Chinese New Year, where we have evening light shows. And what is special about why we keep doing this is not just to do the same thing over and over again, but it's actually a great medium to also engage with graphic artists, illustrators, comic book artists. And for the first time, students in art schools are using their creative skills onto a new digital medium, and to apply that with the mentor firm that we engage with, Electric Canvas from Australia, to convert a lot of their beautiful artwork actually into 3D projections that really dazzle the public for perhaps 3 weeks. Is that right, Tim? Yeah, the Chinese New Year. And another project I wanted to also mention, which is quite representative of Tai Kwun, is Neon Connection. I think everyone in Hong Kong, perhaps all around the world, when you think of Hong Kong, the first image that comes to mind is those streets that are lit with neon lights throughout, and how iconic that is of Hong Kong. But of course, we know in today's Hong Kong, you see less and less of such a streetscape. And Tai Kwun wanted to re-engage neon artists who are all in their 70s and 80s, and their craft is almost disappearing, together with young architects, young creatives, to use neon as a device to actually articulate the architectural features of Tai Kwun, to use it as a way to make Tai Kwun more approachable, exciting, and also transversible. Because if there's anything, I think all of you who have been to Tai Kwun, the one thing you've all done is you've gotten lost before, right? Yeah, you cannot find your way, you couldn't find the bathroom. Actually, we just got a terrible review just last week to say that Tai Kwun's toilets are impossible to find. You cannot find your way anywhere. So we use neon technology, we use artists, artwork to kind of light that pathway, that yellow brick road that we want people to kind of go all around, instead of just using big signage that says go here or turn left. And we try very hard not to do that, and we try to use artwork to kind of bait you along the path of Tai Kwun, so that every time you come, hopefully you're taking a different path around Tai Kwun to go to the same destination. Yeah, all right, next. So I think this is a video. I think it's only 1 minute.
我哋個作品個名咧就叫 Colomer and Diez， 中文名咧叫做物落霓虹。咁喺大館領3個區域裏邊咧，我哋就會好似處理3個電影場景咁樣。第一個區域叫紅市集，咁紅市集入邊咧，我哋利用到霓虹燈咧去做一啲唔同嘅圖案，包括80、90年代喺街市裏邊見到照雞蛋嘅紅膠燈啦，或者喺熟食中心裏邊紅色嘅膠燈。我哋希望呈現出過往舊街市同埋舊熟食中心裏邊人來人往嘅景象嘅感覺。喺我哋深化我哋一個作品嘅設計嘅時候咧，我哋發現咗現場咧有部分嘅牆身嘅承重能力咧係比較低嘅，咁所以我哋亦都相應地調整咗我哋嘅設計啦，包括咗霓虹燈嘅位置啊，或者反光物料嘅轉換啦。嗰個反光貼紙嘅物料咧，反而會有一個水波紋嘅反射效果，呢個係我哋意料之外，亦都係一個非常好嘅效果嚟嘅。第二個區咧就叫做綠閘門。我哋利用霓虹燈重現咗香港舊街道地下店鋪常用嘅舊鐵閘，佢仲呼應翻大館裏面舊市嘅功能，就係監獄裏面嘅鐵欄。同第一、第二個區域唔同，我哋今次採用咗一個平面無限延伸嘅圖案，參考咗大館最有特色嘅建築元素，就係佢哋嘅拱門。顏色上面，我哋採用咗喺香港街道裏邊經常都會見到嘅紅白藍膠袋。
Those are all my slides, but I have one last slide. So besides all the art and culture activity, of course we have tons of amazing restaurants, cafes, bars, speakeasies, as well as retail shops that sell locally made ceramics, artwork, art galleries, etc. So for those people who love shopping, eating, there's also a lot to do on this site. And yeah, so that's the other element of Tai Kwun that I seldom talk about. But I just wanted to mention it today. And I think those are all my slides. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Chin Chin. Yeah, so I, as the moderator, have the privilege to ask questions first. As a teacher, we always look into history. Yeah, so it's a question on history for both Chin Chin and Martin. So how has history played a role in the rehabilitation and adaptive use of the heritage sites you guys are working on? Maybe Chin Chin first?
Sure. So I think it's like Songkhat, Tai Kwun has a very morbid, a bit dark history. I think Songkhat deals with funerals, dead bodies, and we deal with jail and incarceration. So it's, I think that history is something we have, for Tai Kwun, we have to interpret and be authentic too. And a lot of times when we work with artists, for example, the most recent work we worked with Elisa Rehana, a New Zealand video artist. A lot of times when the artist comes to Tai Kwun for the first time, I think what they thought they would be doing in Tai Kwun and creating in Tai Kwun as artwork inevitably gets influenced by the history of Tai Kwun, the architecture of Tai Kwun, and that heaviness of that law and order. And I think also Tai Kwun takes this mandate quite seriously. So if you walk around Tai Kwun, I always tell people we are not a collecting institution, we do not collect artwork, but the buildings are the collections, and so we do have permanent heritage galleries that illustrate the history of Tai Kwun from a very multidisciplinary, multi-perspective angle. So we just opened actually two recently, or reopened two. We revamp these every few years. So the Victoria Jail experience has been presented a while back, and we revamped it last year. And we've also just opened the Central Magistracy exhibition, which is a deep look at the court system back then, all the petty crimes that were tried in that magistrate's court, how law and order evolved. So, you know, we love working with contemporary artists, performing art groups, but we always have one strong commitment to interpreting the heritage of the space through these programs. And we also not only talk about Tai Kwun's own heritage, but how it relates to other neighborhoods in Hong Kong. For example, Happy Valley exhibitions on is about the relationship between also Central and Happy Valley in history. And we do these thematic heritage exhibitions twice a year. Of course, we also pay homage to neon culture, to Hong Kong canto pop. So I would say that we are quite committed in interpreting heritage.
So for Tai Kwun, the layers of history has actually been helping to enrich the programs and the activities.
Yes, I would say that, yeah.
So Martin, how about Songkhat in Paris?
Yeah, I think it's you raised one of the main difference I think between the two locations because for Songkhat I think the history of the building play a very thin role in the sense that what was the building, what was the purpose of the building did not play a role first in the imagination of the city hall, of the reason why the city hall wanted to reuse this building to make a cultural project. So it could have been another building for a totally other purpose. The idea was to make a cultural project by the artist and for the people, for inhabitants, for the neighborhood. It was the main purpose. And I think then they asked themselves, okay, we have to make a huge rehabilitation project. And in terms of heritage, of what will remain in the walls, it was quite not that big. The building was written on the historic building, historic monuments, but in terms of patrimonial thing, we didn't have quite a lot to show. So the idea was not to talk about the past as to testify what it was and to make permanent places to speak about it, but it was just okay. It was a funeral business, and now it's a place for art. I think for us, actually in the first project we had like this room with a small exhibition about the heritage, but the current director just wanted it not to be there, and so he decided not to continue with this exhibition. And so for us, the way to make live the history and of the building is to make it live right now and to imagine the uses right now and in the future. But I think it's also because in terms of historic importance, I think it's not that important in Paris to like the funeral business in this neighborhood. It's not that a thing. So yeah, basically for us it's not good. But I said that, but in a way, everybody knows what was CENTQUATRE before. So it's quite something, and one thing that is quite interesting is in the first years of the artistic direction, a lot of artists, without asking them, proposed projects in the themes of death or funeral matter, and how to build a project based on the heritage of the building. And my director said, no, we don't want it. We want to go further. And yeah, so I will say the history is
understood. Yeah.
It's something because everybody knows what was CENTQUATRE. But we don't build a program on it.
Yeah, it's actually echoing what you mentioned earlier, as the walls, the buildings are there, but the users are indefinite. This is what I learned from your project, and I also think that it relates very much to the cultural climate of Hong Kong and Paris. Well, in Hong Kong we don't have that many old buildings. Yeah, whereas Paris, we can actually learn the history quite easily with all the heritage buildings on site. Yeah. So how do you see your cultural establishment being able to convert or transform the cultural climate of your city? Do you think you are giving a totally new image for Hong Kong, for example, Tai Kwun, or like for 104, it's actually reinforcing Paris as a capital of culture? Maybe Martin first?
Wow, what a question. I think CENTQUATRE is quite a new project. It has 15 years of experience, so 16 now. So comparing to other cultural institutions like the big museum, Paris, the Louvre, Musée d'Orsay, and so on, and even the big theater like Théâtre de la Ville, Théâtre du Châtelet, which are like institutions that existed for like more than 1 century at the Opera of Paris. The budget, there is nothing to compare, so it's quite a smaller project. But I think the project is quite ambitious, and in terms of about the principle I mentioned, like the cultural urbanism, to mix a place of art with a place to live, all the idea and the concept behind like the third places that you may know. So it means like the place that are defined by the sociability and the place where you gather, and that is not the work or your home. In terms of how we try to make all the spaces optimized, so For instance, a theater, when you don't have a show, it's closed and there is nothing going on. It's like a cliche, but just so you understand. So in terms of what we do and how we do it, I think, I believe that it's quite innovative, even in the competition of the cultural sector in Paris, which is like one of the biggest thing in Paris, the cultural sector, and touristic, of course. I think it's changed the vision. It's not only CENTQUATRE, but it's all the third places, this thing, and how we for us, for like people now in France, it's not normal that you have a theater which is 20,000 square meters and it's empty 80% of the time. It's not normal. 20 years ago it was normal. 10 years ago it was okay. Now it's not normal. We have spaces. Paris is crowded. It's a big city. We need to use the spaces to do things and to make the people reuse the spaces and to be welcome now in those spaces. And they don't have always to pay to see stuff, and just we need spaces, free spaces. And so in terms of that, I think CENTQUATRE played a role, because now in my field, cultural engineering, I see a lot of new projects and a lot of past former projects that need to be that need to have renovation projects. And in all 100% of the new projects, even the former one, and they have construction to make, they always now integrate concepts where we can see that the importance of people inside the project and the public spaces inside the project take a very important role. For instance, Grand Palais, maybe you know Grand Palais, it's a huge institution of Paris, and they had like huge exhibitions. It's in the Champs-Élysées, so it's like big thing. And before the construction site, it has been on a construction site for 4 years now. You can't go inside if you don't buy a ticket to see an exhibition, to see a fair, and so on. And they do 4 years of construction site, and they change. The main thing they change, it's now you can go inside without a ticket. The restaurant inside, the public space inside, and now when you are inside, you can buy a ticket to go to see an exhibition. And I don't know if CENTQUATRE played a major role in that, but I think it played a small role. So yeah, maybe I can.
So there's actually a very different demand for art now in culture in Paris. How about Tai Kwun case, Chin Chin?
I think when Tai Kwun opened, Hong Kong hasn't, I think, completely launched its ambition of being a cultural hub, because I think at that time the West Kowloon Cultural District wasn't open, and Tai Kwun opened in May 2018. I think that was at the beginning of opening of new cultural institutions other than government museums, and I think what is really different about Tai Kwun is, before that, I think a lot of the Hong Kong public, when they go to a museum, they first think, oh, am I interested in art? Do I like this artist? Am I a contemporary art person? And I think Tai Kwun tries to break that by giving the public this sense that you don't need to know about art, or you don't need to know a lot about classical music, or you don't have to have a minimum interest or knowledge base to walk into this site. And we wanted to encourage that exploratory behavior. And in some sense, I almost always want to say Tai Kwun is every Hong Konger's living room. Come here, sit down, grab a chair, enjoy the space. And if you chance upon art, if you chance upon a classical music concert, or you happen to walk into Victoria Prison, enjoy it and be open-minded about it. And every time you're here, it's going to be something different and thrilling. So I think we tried very hard to lower the barriers of entry of going into an art institution because perhaps in contrast to Paris, I think when Tai Kwun opened, the proportion of the population that regularly would like to engage in art, go to an art exhibition is probably not that high. I think that's beginning to change. And I think as an art institution at that time, and still now, we have a huge role to play in making this experience as easy, approachable as possible. It doesn't mean that we don't push the boundaries in making edgy shows or uncomfortable, sometimes exhibitions that make you pause and think and question why. But first, you have to get them here and make it as seamless and frictionless for them to just be in the space. Yeah.
I think it's very important to make people like the space and come again, not just for once, right? So I think both sides are very successful in enhancing the accessibility. So we know Tai Kwun has many entrances, and Chin Chin mentioned about the lowering of the threshold so people can come and enjoy art in ease. So Martin, how has 104 CENTQUATRE managed to invite all those people in the neighborhood or overseas to visit your venue? Simply by like no tickets, no ticketing and so.
No, it's very good question because, as a matter of fact, CENTQUATRE is surrounded as Tai Kwun by buildings. It's surrounded by so many other activities possible and different possible activities, and the two streets that go to CENTQUATRE are not streets that people use to walk or to go to shop or to go to restaurants. We have a lot of cars. It's not a place to where you just make a Sunday afternoon or walk with your family and stuff. So we do not have people just walking and see CENTQUATRE and come in. People go to the address to go to CENTQUATRE. They can come to do different things, but they go to CENTQUATRE. And we are not in the city center. There is a lot of inhabitants around CENTQUATRE, like it's quite kind of crowded, but it's not city center, so there is no tourists at all in this neighborhood. What we did to put CENTQUATRE on the map, it's quite difficult to explain, but I think it has to, firstly, you have to make the people feel welcome. To make the people feel welcome, for us, it's all about how you do showy signs, like showy signs, like ostentatious signs that says, okay, you are welcome. And it's fun that it's very interesting, the neon program, because on the main entrance of CENTQUATRE, we do also have like a neon artwork, which is like 100 different signs in neon. You know, like the sign you have when you enter a shop with it said enter, entrance, or open, and it's like in many different languages. And so we have this very like signy sign, showy sign in the main entrance, and it's light on only when it's open, and so it's how you work on the different entrances, and how you make the security a bit behind, not in front, so you let the people go inside. How you don't put a map at first directly on the entrance, so people just go through the first door and the second door, and then they might have the information what is going on inside, but they don't have we don't tell them, okay, you have to go there, you have to go there. They just come in, and then they are welcome. If they need information, they can have It's all about, for instance, also when José Manuel arrived at CENTQUATRE, we had a lot of public furniture, like benches, like sofas, like rocking chairs inside CENTQUATRE, and they were attached to the ground. And when you arrive, he make all the furniture unattached to the ground, so people can use the furniture and to reorganize the spaces and to be like free to say, okay, I put the bench in this place, and with my friend we create our space. So yeah, in terms of urbanistic approach, that's it. And in terms, of course, of social and artistic approach, we went to see all the associations, cultural, social, all the schools. We make projects with them. We organize free artistic events with local communities as well. And so in the time, in several months, when you let the door always open, and when you create projects with the local communities by like the mouse to hear effect worked, and so people came, and now I'm not saying it's always easy, and we always have to maintain like a quality or something happening. And for instance, one of the economic model of CENTQUATRE is very hybrid, and we have a lot of rentals. People rent the space to do like shows, fairs, and so on, but nobody can rent 100% of CENTQUATRE. So in the opening hours, there is always a spot to the free practices, to the shops, to the people working inside CENTQUATRE, just to use the space. Even if 95% of CENTQUATRE is not accessible, not available, we never said no to people want to come inside on the opening hours.
Making the place very welcoming. So I would like to open the Q&A section to the floor now. Do you have any questions? Okay, yeah, the lady here.
Well, we know how Tai Kwun is funded, but for Martin, how is your institution funded? Because you rent places out for €2, right? So that's not how you're getting your funding.
So, Martin, financially, how has CENTQUATRE managed to survive?
Well, the budget is 50% from the City Hall of Paris, and it's 50% self-funded. On the self-funded part, we can divide in 4 parts. First part, cultural engineering and innovation. So we do a consulting mission, and we accompany some startups, and we have money for it. Second part is ticketing. So the entrance in festivals, shows, exhibition, concerts. Third part is rentals and shops. So we rent space for a private event, and we do have like a rental for like the library, the restaurant, and so on. And the last part is special grants and touring and selling some production that we do. Like for artistic projects, we do have special grants for private or public institution, and we do also produce shows, and we sell it to other institutions in France or in the world.
Great. So you mentioned about the cultural engineering, Martin. Is it quite unique for CENTQUATRE, or it is actually quite a normal type of consultancy in France?
Cultural engineering was created in the late 80s in France by a former consultant of the cultural ministry of the French cultural ministry, Jacques Lang, the guy who created Nuit Blanche and stuff, and this type of events. And he created like a private company to underline and to make, how can I say it? Like, his goal was to explain that in the cultural field, that is a lot of, it's very public in France. We do have a lot of expertise, but and this expertise can be used to accompany other projects and internationally speaking. So yeah, basically right now in France, we do have like some private companies that do cultural engineering. In terms of public institution, some museums do cultural engineering, but it's much more like how to sell the collection or to create new exhibition in foreign countries. But in terms of cultural engineering, as we do it, meaning how to create new cultural location with cultural urbanism principles, we are the only institution who do it. We do it.
This is definitely avant-garde, yeah? And any other questions? No, okay, I have one. So in terms of, okay, both sides are very successful. In terms of future directions, what do you guys have in mind? Maybe Chin Chin first?
Well, that's a good question. And I think we've been also doing a lot of soul searching now that we've opened for 5-6 years, given how the cultural landscape also in Hong Kong has moved. What should Tai Kwun's programs be about in future? Actually, we are crafting that, a 5-year strategy paper, which is giving us a lot of stress. But let me divulge some secrets first. I think, like I said, a huge element of it is having that connection with the community in Hong Kong. And I think based on some of our recent exhibitions and the work that we've done, say in the Neon Project, in the James Wong and Joseph Hu exhibition, in also Innerglow, I think we kind of also realized that when we were forming Tai Kwun, we kind of simplistically thought of program as a heritage program, there's a contemporary art center, and the performing arts that happens in an auditorium or in some space. But I think there's a lot more room for interdisciplinary exploration, the introduction of technology, and also really themes that resonate and connect to people. Because I think for the Hong Kong public, I mean, to understand, see, and appreciate a contemporary art exhibition, I think you need also a lot of learning programs that we would have to push out more holistically. But you also need something that draws them first to Tai Kwun to experience in order for them to cross that next threshold. So I think creating a series of programs that have that sort of appeal, but really reimagine Hong Kong heritage in a very innovative way is going to be one of the threats that we would very much like to invest in. And I think the continuous work that we're going to have with artists in Hong Kong, across the region, internationally, I think that's something Tai Kwun really embraces. We are a space that will enable an artist to dream a little bit bigger, break through in their career, try something that they've not done. We have an excellent production team, and excellent also venue, which actually a lot of artists, once they're here, like I said, start to think of really unconventional ideas, things that they've not tried, and we do whatever we can to also enable that to happen. So we are actually launching also a series of exhibitions called the Breakthrough Series. So when there are artists that are at that point in their career, they need one push to kind of make it to major league, I I think we want to be part of that. We want to be part of that journey with the artists. So I think those are kind of learnings we've had in the last few years on what we think makes Tai Kwun tick, and I think we'll be making more investments into those areas. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks, Chin Chin. Martin, over to you. New direction. Is it something top secret?
No. I think, firstly, I wanted to say that now the director of 104 is going to hand his project in next years. So it's going to be 15 years that he ran the place, and for us, we don't know right now if he's going further, but I think he's not. And I think for 104 it's quite challenging to imagine what can be the project after him. So in terms of short terms, our main concern is that. But to say something more specific about 104, I think what we need to be very cautious about is to maintain the strong artistic identity in terms of when you come to 104, it's very easy to think, to believe that it can only work with like a public space with shops and people using the spaces for free practices. Very easy to think that. Very easy to think that it can be maintaining, the project can long and can last just doing that. Because it's the things that are more visible when you come to 104. But for us, we believe that we need to continue to invest on new artists, to accompany the emergence of a new artistic field, for instance, the VR field, but more generally like the immersive field, and not only digital arts, but the immersive field. Yeah, we believe it's very important to go to this path and to never forget that 104 is 104 because it's the relationship between the public spaces and the place to live and the place for artists. One can't work with the other, and for us, if we are not recognized for the artistic work, it's going to be okay. It can work for 2-3 years, but at the end, it won't be working like it's working now, even for the public spaces and the free artistic practice.
Any more questions from the floor? You guys really good to me. You guys leave the time for me to ask one last question. Well, today, the secretary for the Culture and Tourism and Sports, Wan Tai Lei, Mr. Yang, he just launched a policy on hoping to turn Hong Kong into a cultural hub, promoting culture and also creativity, and also hoping to create more jobs. So in this sort of direction, do you think the government can actually play a strong role in shaping the art scene of a city? Or how can the government do more in order to encourage cultural sites to be more viable and successful? A deep question, basically. How can government help?
The expertise of our cultural engineers, people who have expertise to advise, and I think trust the professionals. That's what I would say. And don't pretend you know more than the professionals. And I think Hong Kong has great professional artists, people who know art and culture very well, and they should lead that. And I think not always government-directed policy that helps to create an easier environment for art and culture to experiment, to express itself would be really conducive. And I think a directive-led approach sometimes can be counterproductive. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
Understood. Martin, what do you think?
No, I totally agree. Trust the professionals. I think it's like the first things to do. And maybe it's very general speaking, but to see the thing in the long term and not short term, and to value the artistic work in terms of the artistic value itself of the project and in the relationship, even in the relationship with the audience. But the artistic work is to valorize, to value itself, and I think politicians and public governments often make a confusion between artistic work and social and artistic work. You see what I mean? Like, for us, it's obviously the audiences and the social works and the tools of the art for the diversity and for the social programs. It's very important, but it has not to be while forgetting about the artistic value of the project by itself. And I think it's, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks, Chin Chin and Martin, for your sharing tonight. And thanks all the audience coming here to Tai Kwun for the conversation. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.